Okay, I hope I started. Okay, I hope I started this at the right time. We'll see how this goes. I already see I'm like a little bit of a lag off. Okay, well, thank you for coming back. Welcome to my channel, Edible Energy, Feed the Garden. So I know I have a bunch of different series. I have the kitchen energy series where I cook in the kitchen and I use a lot of leftovers and I just try to show you what I make. And then I also have, I guess this is kind of attached to that series, where it's just kind of me talking about my journey and just a way for you to get to know me a little bit more and help build a community of people who are going through a similar journey, or maybe a journey that's not even related to food, but some of the things that we'll talk about, um, whether it's habits that you pick up or things like that, you can essentially relate to. Um, and this is like a video version of the podcast that I have, Edible Energy Feed. Oh, yes, Edible Energy Feed the Garden podcast that I have. And so sometimes I'll have a video, sometimes I won't. It would just be strictly audio and that live on the podcast. I'm honestly, just to be fully transparent, trying to figure out which one I want to do. But for the longest time, this has been my goal of having an actual channel where you can see me and it can be more personable. Um, got a microphone. It's not even set up the way I want to, but I'm just so excited to record my first episode. I'm like, you know what? As long as I have my light and video and a way for me to have a clear audio, this is gold for me. So um, I'm happy we're here. But yes, so for this episode, I wanted to go over basically the reasons why I've taken so long to get to this point, which is a little bit embarrassing to even say, but I'm, I think what makes my brand what it is and me who I am is trying to be as transparent and honest and self-critical about this whole process. So I'm I won't get into like those reasons yet, but I just wanted to go over them because I think talking them through, talking them out is a great way to, start that process. Wait, I didn't start I have a timer because I can't go over 30 minutes on my web browser and I don't want it to interrupt, but I have a timer to hit before it gets to 30 minutes so that I can just like readjust. Um, but oh gosh, what was I saying? Anyways, so yeah, I just wanted to go over that with you and share some of the reasons why I've paused. I've hit a lot of hiccups along this journey. I've always had like a clear vision of what I wanted. Well, I guess I shouldn't even say that. I've had an idea of what I wanted to see, but I just had a very specific view. And I felt like if I didn't match that, then I couldn't do anything. I couldn't start anything. And I think the thing I've learned the most this year, or at least maybe in the last 6 months, is you won't know if you're going to make it or not unless you just do it. And so here's me just doing it, just going for it. So yeah. So just to begin a little bit of who am I and how did I essentially get to this point. And so, if you know a little bit about my brand and me, you know that this all started with a simple diet change. So, in 2017, I went vegan, and I did that. I was a sophomore in college. And at the time, I had a friend who was already vegetarian for most of his life. And so I remember I literally specifically remember like being in my dorm room and just going on and on about my stomach pains. And even leading up to that point, I've always had just stomach issues, especially when I was on like my menstrual cycle and things like that. It was just so intense. And I honestly thought like, that's just my life. I'm just supposed to live in pain you know, and so I was basically at like a peak in that moment, my sophomore year in college. And my friend was just like, well, why don't you just go vegan? And I'm like, that's interesting. So after he said that, I remember I was watching a YouTube video about just ways to detox your body. And the person who was talking also was like, the vegan diet is a great way to just do a completely detox. And, it could be a way for you to essentially figure out, what your body needs or what's going on with it. And so literally that next day, I just cold turkey went vegan. And that's kind of my personality. Like if I'm going to just do something, I'm like, all right, just get into it, just do it. So that's what I did. And it was kind of like obviously it was because I think because I did it so quickly, it was a bit of a shock, but I think I was on adrenaline for, I would say, like the first like 3 weeks to a month. And then after that, I was like, okay, we got to start changing up our meals and being more intentional about what we're doing or making, meal prepping for like my lunches at work, because I mean, even in 2017, I think we are kind of like on that uphill of more vegan variety and options. But even still, like the way I used to eat, a lot of my inspirations came from Latin cuisine, West African especially, Liberian cuisine specifically, um, Asian cuisine, whether it's Indian, Japanese, Chinese. Like I'm from the Bay Area, so I've been exposed to a lot of different cuisines my whole life. And so I was just used to eating those dishes, and I had to think about how to veganize them, and or at least eliminate the meat and the dairy products from them. And so it took a little bit of learning about new vegetables. I remember I was here we have a Sprouts, and I remember being at their produce section, and I just saw different colors and different sizes and shapes of vegetables, and I just started picking them. And I would look online and see how to prepare them, how different people prepare them, and I just kind of started meshing them with dishes that I've eaten all my life. And so my cooking style is a bit of like a fusion of different cuisines. So that's a little bit of a backup of how I got uh, essentially to maybe not this point specifically, but where the origin started of me kind of cooking. And so a lot of people that I knew were interested because I would bring food to school and they'd be like, what's that? Or it smells good or it tastes good, like what's going on? And so I started posting what I was making on Instagram. And at first I was OG Foods. People know, people watching, if they know my journey, they're like, oh, I remember OG Foods. And so that kind of started me like building the brand before I even knew it was going to be Edible Energy. But people first originally knew it as OG Foods. And so I was just posting on social media, and more people just were interested. And so I was like, oh, maybe I have something. Because every time people would ask me like, oh, like, if we were in a conversation or we were about to go out to eat or something, it would always end up coming up that I am vegan, or I didn't even like saying I was vegan. I like to say, "Oh, I don't eat meat," or and I don't eat dairy anymore. Because I feel like when you say you're vegan, sometimes people are like, "Oh god," and I wanted to kind of disarm people, so it's easier to have that conversation. So I would just say, "Oh, I don't eat meat and I don't eat dairy." And so that would come up more frequently. And when I would explain to people why I went vegan, their whole demeanor kind of changed. And they're like, oh, wow, they would always tell me that I was on a journey, even though I didn't even necessarily think of it as a journey, you know? So I was kind of piecing together how people responded to me telling my story. And I'm like, oh, maybe I have something here. Maybe there's something to share. Maybe there's a way to tell my story to people. And I just started noticing how people around me were kind of starting to change their diets, especially my family. They started eating healthier, asking me about more foods. Like I've seen some family members eat things they've never eaten before, you know, whether it's the vegetables or just different things. I just started noticing that people were being inspired with what I was doing. And so that really kind of pushed me into like doing something with this. So going up from 2017 to 2019, it was more of just me learning and cooking and then falling in love with cooking and kind of just finding this joy within it. And around 2019 is when it was my senior year in college. And I was like, oh, I wish I had really like dived deep into this idea, but I just started making plates. Because I kept posting on social media and everyone's like, I gotta try your food, da da da. And I'm like, well, if I'm gonna be cooking, like, y'all gotta pay, you know? So at first, what I did was I brought samples to school and I kind of just wanted to, it was like a way for me to get my name out there, but then also, you know, find out if like people would actually eat my food. And a lot of people liked it. And so I was like, okay, well, I had a friend, or have a friend, and her family, they were making plates as well because they were raising money and for their family member. And so I was just talking to her and I was like, hey, so like, what would I need for this setup? Like, how do you just be making plates for people? What is that about? And so she kind of just told me a little bit about, you know, how to get started. And so I just started making plates for people. And I would post like what I was making for the week and I would have people put in their orders. And at the end of the week, I'd make it and then I would deliver. And it was just like a thing. And it was really cool. And, you know, being able to make almost up to 150 to 200 within a weekend, I was like, wow, like this is something that can grow. And so I was really excited, full momentum. We were going. I was even looking into getting like food handlers card, all this stuff. And then 2020 came. And we all know what happened in 2020. So, you know, we had the panorama come through. And that, I think it really kind of shut me down because I was already nervous, you know, just making food for people. And I was already questioning if like people would eat the food or like the food. And then with, you know, all that was happening in 2020, I was like, okay, well, now I'm really scared because I don't want anyone to get sick. And then it's like, even though they could or could not trace it directly to me, I was just like, oh, my anxiety just couldn't. And so I was like, "Ugh, I need to find another way to kind of like give something to people and show people what I do, you know, without kind of putting myself or others at risk." So then in 2021, I was like, all right, let's do kind of like a brand switch up. Maybe I don't have to like sell food directly to people. What if there's like another way to help inspire people or to share what I do with people? And so that's when I started thinking of my brand. I had already thought of Edible Energy as the name, but I started thinking of it more as a brand at that time. So I looked into getting a logo, or I invested and actually got a logo. I was looking at my Instagram and thinking of different ways, like what I basically had to like kind of restart like a who am I and what am I doing? And so I realized that the biggest thing that people want one is food, of course, but people want to know kind of like how I did it. People always say, like, how did you go vegan? Oh my God, that seems impossible. And when I kept hearing that, I was like, oh, uh, people aren't seeing what I'm seeing. People aren't really going through what I'm going through in the sense of it seems so hard when you're on the outside looking in, but when you're going through it, especially when it's something for your health or when it's something you kind of have to do, you just have like a brain switch where you kind of have to like rework or relearn or even unlearn some things and habits that you used to do so that you can do the things that you need to do. And I'm like, oh, well, this applies more than just to eating, like having like a diet or something like that, but it applies to everything or anything essentially. If you're trying to go back to school, if you're trying to learn something new, if you're trying to, increase your health or increase your mental strength, like there are just so many things that you can apply. The things that I had to do to change my diet, there's so many of those things that you can apply to other things in your life. So I thought maybe there's different ways to, you know, uh, maybe there's different ways to, I guess, communicate that to people. So I started identifying the different strengths that I had with my brand. And one was the storytelling, because I would post my what I was doing, and I started doing like video tutorials. I started doing I created some recipes, I made a website, but I still just didn't feel like everything was coming together. So that was the frustrating part of me. I was like, okay, I have my website, I have an Instagram channel, I post video tutorials, I do this. Like I was doing a lot of different things, but they weren't really coming together. And and I'm in marketing, so I understand how things should flow in that sense, right? And I just felt like it was just so disconnected. So in 2023, I'm like, okay, all right, let's clean it up. So now I'm going more in a direction of, storytelling, also just kind of sharing my journey through what I've learned, what I'm currently learning, going through. Like, this is just, it's not like, oh, yeah, I did it and now I'm going to show you how to do it. Like, no. I'm still learning a lot about myself through this process. And I just think that I don't regret, going vegan at all. I feel like it's just it's helped transform me as a person. And I know that it's because there are things that I've just had to learn how to do. And it's those specific things that I think me doing them consistently is helping me improve as a person. And I know they can help other people improve in whatever direction they want to go in life. So yeah, in 2023, this year, I really kind of like hammered down. I was like, okay, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And so I'm like, okay, well, I love just like sharing my ideas, sharing and just talking. Um, Maybe not with people. People know I'm kind of shy. Or maybe not shy, but people know, or people close to me know that I'm kind of on the introverted side. Like, obviously I don't mind talking, but I feel a lot more comfortable kind of just talking to people this way versus like in person. And so um I kind of just wanted to build upon that, and I feel like that's a good way for me to, just build a wider community of people. And I think it's then when I do have those, that community, I can start doing different things and creating different products and services and stuff like that. I think I was trying to create products and services, but I didn't have an audience. I didn't have, people that like people were interested because, I went to school with them and they see what I'm posting on social media. They're like, oh, that's cool, but I wasn't really reaching the people who were trying to go on a similar journey or who are excited about this type of stuff and things like that. Um, but yeah. Okay. The 20 minutes hit and I was like, I gotta. Um, okay. So now going into my fears and sorry, I was like, is this on? Going into some of my fears and what has held me back for this long. But it's true. And I think it's important to kind of talk through them. But fear number one, honestly, just failing. Just, doing all this for it to not go anywhere. I've definitely invested a lot of time, and money, more money than time, I can admit, into this. And whether it's, my website or just, paying for different um, social media management software, just creative software, like um, digital, legal, like I've definitely paying for my logo, things like that. So I've put a lot of time and resources into this that part of me just doesn't want to fail. And so bad that I'm like, I've just hasn't have not done as much as I could have been doing because I'm just like, well, what if it doesn't work out? But, it's like I'm already spending all this time and energy into it. Like, it makes more sense to go for it. So you could really see, like, it makes more sense to go full throttle and then be like, well, that didn't work out. Okay, now we can move on versus putting your toe in there and being like, oh, I don't know. And that can drag on for years. And then meanwhile, you're still paying and investing your time and money into it. So failing definitely is a scary thing and not really standing out. Like, it's such a saturated market. I feel like so many things, like, and it's a humbling experience because it just reminds me that, like, look, you're not that special. Your ideas are not that unique. Or, when I say you, I'm kind of like me talking to myself. Like, my ideas are not that unique in the sense of, you can find so many channels of people cooking and showing you how they're doing it, tutorials, people, especially with TikTok and all of these different apps, you can cut and do all these cool things with editing. And it's just like, at this point, it's like learning a whole, maybe not a whole new skill, but like diving deeper into a skill, to keep up with the competition. I have a job. This is not what I do full time. So I was just like, am I even going to stand out? Like, who cares what I'm doing? But the thing that kept bringing me back to this idea is the fact that every time I do talk to people, they seem interested and there seems to be an audience that would want to hear what I have to say. And so, but that is honestly what has held me back, or part of what has held me back, just flat out failing and then just not standing out at all and just being overlooked by all these other amazing creators. Like, I'm not even to shade them at all. Like, there's some people I look at their channels, I'm just like, "Ugh, that's exactly what I want to do," you know? And the healthy thinking, or a healthier mindset would see those people and be like, wow, that is inspiration, or that is something to aspire to be, right? And then the negative thinking is envy and jealousy and resentment and so try to keep that balance. Some days I'm more on this side than the other side, and some rough days it's rough, but I think the fact that it's something that has kept coming to me, I'm like, okay, well, let's just do it. You never know. Yeah, we're all doing the same thing, but I'm a big believer in it's how you do it and it's how people connect with you. And it's, everyone's not me. Everyone doesn't have my personality. Everyone doesn't think, maybe not, I won't say no one thinks like me because we all share similar ideas at some point, but it's all in the execution, right? Um, and so I'm trying to look at those things that make me unique versus the things that make me like every other creator out there. Um, I kind of went into this a little bit in my first point, but for my second point, oversaturation and competition. Like I was saying before, there are tons of channels that are doing similar things. And that's a reason why I paused on doing tutorials, because every time I did my tutorial, I would see other people doing their tutorials. And I'm like, I think that's what people like. I think that's what people want to do. But I don't want to do those things. I don't want to do all of that editing. I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to do all of that editing. I'm already going to be editing, but it's like, I don't want to get a TikTok. I don't want to like, especially with like apps or social apps like Instagram, TikTok, things like that. You have to be like posting, 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 posting. And I already do marketing as my job. And so I think I just didn't want to keep doing it for like my passion, essentially, right? Or this kind of started as something that was fun for me. And so when I kind of had to kept I once I created like my social media calendar, I'm just like, ugh, it feels like work. And I just felt like it shouldn't have felt like that. Like this right now doesn't necessarily feel like work. I feel more relaxed. I feel more less stressed about it. The most stress is kind of just like setting everything up and making sure that this thing records and I can, you know, import everything to where it needs to go and stuff like that. But, you know, the execution of it is fun for me. When I was recording videos and showing people how I was cooking, like cooking for me is something relaxing. It's something that is my deep passion. I just love to cook. And I would get through halfway through my meal and I'm like, "Ugh, I'm not recording, or I haven't written down any of the recipes or the measurements." And all of that it just wasn't fun. And so I was like, I don't think I can keep this up, because making something that I love to do very freely and openly and casually, making it into my main business, it just made it not fun. It had to, because it had to have structure. If you want to do those types of things and pump out content like that, there has to be some type of structure that you have, and there are things that you have to do so that you make sure that you're in, so that you make sure that you're in, um, that like cycle. So, or sorry, algorithm. Excuse me. So I was like, okay, I I was really worried about just all the competition out there. And so I really have been just thinking of ways to stand out, but I think I'm dialing that back, and instead of trying to think about how to stand out from the competition, like I'm just going for it. I'm just going to do this and I'll know if y'all don't like it. Trust and believe. And that goes into my third fear. Um and that is just culture, stands, supporters, cancel culture. um I mean, it's scary. Like I feel like people don't really talk about how it's scary. People kind of like have this like, oh, cancel culture, cancel me. To like, no, we all scared out here. I have a job. Like I have things that I do. I have my name attached to like different things, and those things run through my mind. Like, am I going to say something that offends somebody? And then they just, or am I going to get like a person who really likes my content and like gets a little too connected with it? Am I just going to have a bunch of trolls on my stuff? Like managing, just the comment section. Like I'm a sensitive person. I know sometimes I have this like demeanor that things may not get to me. Maybe because I'm a Scorpio rising. I don't know. Just like, but I am. Um, but things get to me, and I am pretty sensitive. And sometimes I'm reading other people's comment sections and I feel offended for them, and so I can only imagine if people were directing those words at me and how I'd feel about it. And yeah, those things, I think about and they get to me and they kind of make me pause and think about how I would want to handle that. Right now it's just me. I'm the only one kind of putting this thing together. I'm like a team of one, So I worry about burnout. I worry about not being consistent enough. I just worry about, especially like if I do gain a following, like that's something you kind of have to uphold, rightfully so. I'm I've definitely I mean, I'm kind of a lazy social media user, not even gonna lie. Like, I'm one of those cloud watchers. Like, I'll be online and could easily not post anything, not even like anything, unless I'm in the mood. Sometimes I just randomly get in the mood and then I'm like, I start liking like people's stuff and I start commenting. Like, I'm just engaging. Like, I am doing it. And then other times, like a lot of the times, I'm kind of just like a lurker and I'll just kind of be in the clouds, just listening, watching. Um, and so I think about, how many of me's my type of users are out there. And yeah, it's just a lot to think about. Um, and it could be because I part of the reason is like I am in marketing and so I think about all the things that have to happen and I'm like, you're not doing those things. You're not cross promoting, you know, you're not looking at your analytics. Like, so it's like I know what I should be doing and some of those things I don't want to do or I don't know if I'm ready for or I don't know if I can handle on my own because I go to work with a team and we all are marketing. So for me to do all those different pieces myself, it's kind of stressful to think about. But yeah, so the culture, stands, supporters, all that stuff, that also kind of scares me. Obviously, the supporters a lot less. I'd rather have more supporters than people who didn't like me. But I think about how that can affect my psyche of, needing or feeling like I need to uphold this image, right? Um, and you, that's a perfect segue into even me and that's a reason why when I started my brand, how I promoted myself, I didn't want to like I didn't want to put myself in a box. I didn't want to put like vegan energy, vegan queen, vegan whatever. One, because most of those handles are taken already. But also because I know myself. I know that I'm an evolving person. I know that and I've always been this way. Like one day I'll be into this thing, the next day I'll be into that thing. Like as I've gotten older, you kind of, you're like, okay, I may, be more free going, but for the most part, this is who I am. And I think I'm starting to build that. So there's more consistency on that end. But with the types of experiences I want and the types of I guess there's different journeys that I have. Like I'm open for I know that some journeys come to an end. So even though I'm on this long journey of kind of rebuilding myself and redefining myself, I'm not, I, I didn't when I went vegan, I didn't know how long I was going to be vegan. I didn't know where it was going to take me. Like it was so cold turkey. I just did it. And so I wanted to prepare for me not being vegan anymore, which is why I didn't want to put myself in that box because I mean, the vegan community talk about cancel culture. I'm just saying the vegan community can be very, very, um, I'm trying to find the word. I'll just say strict and they can have very strong boundaries on what is considered vegan, what's not considered vegan, what is something you're not supposed to do. Like there's just a lot of rules there. And I knew I was not following all them rules. Like that's why I stopped saying I was vegan because I was just like, well, I don't want to say that I'm vegan and then to find out I'm not really vegan. So I started saying, I don't eat meat and I don't consume any dairy, eggs, and stuff like that. And now I do eat meat again. And I would say you could best categorize me if you needed to if you need a box, if you need to put me in a box, like you just have to. I guess you could say I'm plant based. I eat tons, like way more vegetables than I did before I went vegan. Um, More beans, just whole foods in general. I don't eat out as much anymore, even though I love fries. French fries are my weakness. Um, but yeah, I don't eat as much processed food anymore. I don't eat as many snacks as I used to. Some days we be going in. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But for the most part, I eat a lot of just veggies, and now I'll eat some meat every now and then, or some chicken every now and then. I'll eat more fish, if anything. Um, Eggs, even though sometimes eggs just, I don't know, they kind of stink. Don't they kind of stink? I don't know, something about eggs. um, but it's crazy because when I went vegan, I was like, oh my God, I can't eat eggs. I can't eat cheese. Like, I was a cheese girl. Like, you could not tell me nothing about cheese before. Um, and so I, it's crazy now that I'm eating those things again, but I don't feel like I need them. Like there's some dishes it it's vegan. It's raw vegan. Some dishes I eat, there's absolutely no meat, no dairy, no cheese. And it's not like intentional. It's just, I just want to eat light and I know what I can go for. Oh, I want to like really be full and not eat that much for the rest of the day. I know what to go to. And so um yeah, I remember talking to like friends and my parents about it, and they're like, maybe you shouldn't tell anybody that you're not vegan anymore. I was like, no, I want to be honest, I want to be an honest person. And I wasn't using being vegan as a way to get more followers. Like, trust me, my follower count is the exact same as when I started. I'm so bad at growing my channel, especially on Instagram. Um, but yeah, I just want to like, and that's the thing, like, I want to be as honest as possible. I want to be as transparent as possible. I don't have much like anything to hide on this journey. Like, I'm just trying to do this. And I'm just trying to deliver um my truth and just share my journey with people and learn from other people along the way. And maybe people learn from me or inspired by me. Like, that's always a beautiful thing. Um but yeah, those are some of the reasons why it's taking me this long to get here. And I've been procrastinating and kind of just making excuses. But I've experienced some things this year that has taught me that you cannot wait for anyone. And even though this may sound really weird, you can't even wait for yourself to be ready. Like, sometimes you just got to do it. Um, and that's kind of how I'm moving forward living my life. If I have an idea on something, if I want to pursue something, just go for it. Just research how to do it and then just start doing it. I'm such a planner. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it has to be, you know, this way in order to get it done. And sometimes you can use that as a way to not get anything done. It's a way to make an excuse for yourself. And there are so many things and ideas that I have not gotten off the ground because of those excuses. And I don't want this to be one of them, especially because of all of the time and resources and money I've put into this. Like, I have to. I have to see this through. And I'm excited. I think there's definitely new energy. There's new motivation for me to do this. And so with that, welcome to the journey. Welcome to my garden. um but yeah. So that's all for today. I am going to attempt to edit and pray that everything got exported. The microphone's on, so that's always the first step. But yeah, I look forward to connecting with you again, to see this see this episode with the video if you want to look at my face. Go on my YouTube at Edible Energy. Um, and if you want to just listen to this while you're driving somewhere or you're not really needing a video, um, of course, you can find me on Spotify at Edible Energy, Feed the Garden. And if you just want to see other things that I do, whether it's video clips of me cooking food and kind of just sharing more of my story, go to my Instagram at Edible Energy FTG. And you can also, sorry, shaking the table. You can also, what's the other thing? Oh, my website. You can also go to my website at www.edibleenergyftg.com. And I also have a LinkedIn and a Facebook that I have not cross promoted whatsoever, but I plan to. And I'm Edible Energy on those as well. So just, go and find me. You will find me. The only thing I don't have is a TikTok or really a Twitter. I have a Twitter, but it's more my personal Twitter, and I don't really use Twitter anymore. It's gone to a different place. And same with TikTok. I've never had a TikTok. I don't ever really plan on downloading TikTok. It's just not for me. I don't, yeah. It's just I don't want to maintain it. um so yeah, you can find me on all of those other places that I've listed. And if you want to reach out to me and email me, you can at edibleenergyftg@gmail.com. So yeah. Well, I hope you have a great morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this. Just have a great day. And I will see you on the next episode. In the next episode. I'll see you later. My street's so noisy. Goodbye. I'll see you another time.